Our hero nodded and told her he totally got what she was saying. She told him the spell was super easy, but the real test was seeing if he could actually pull it off and show everyone what he's really made of. The creature warns them to watch out, or it's game over for everyone. But the girl just says the boy will totally step up and handle everything. Our hero just wiped the slate clean and left absolutely nothing standing. The guy turned to the kid and told him he was officially kicked off the team. Rad was totally lost, while the guy just kept yelling that he was kicked out and wasn't needed anymore. Our hero was totally lost because everything was just happening way too fast. The girl called him straight up cruel and just laughed right in his face. Another guy told him he should be shocked because he never thought he'd actually get the boot. Shin says she's totally against the plan, but she calls the hero a complete loser and admits she actually feels kind of sorry for him. We all made this choice together. It's been 5 long years since this guy first put the squad together. He actually picked him up from a shelter back then. Since that day, he's worked his tail off to be... He went from looking up to him to thinking he's absolute trash. He said this whole mess was his fault, just because he's totally useless. The guy starts breaking down their whole strategy, where some of them charge the front lines, while others blast magic from a distance, and one girl handles the healing while keeping those creepy undead away. Our guy was feeling super confident because he was the one who cooked up this whole plan in the first place. The guy said that in Vanguard, a hero isn't allowed to fight or use battle magic. They just stand in the back, casting totally useless support spell. Trans calls the guy a total loser, but Rudd sticks up for him, saying they'd be lost without his help, even though Trans thinks he's just a fool who causes nothing but trouble now. He said anyone can carry bags and point the way, but the guy knew that wasn't the kind of help he actually needed. The hero knows he's not exactly a pro at support magic, but someone's got to do it, since the next dungeons are going to be crazy hard, and they seriously need a strategist calling the shots from the back. His old squad was busy bragging about their fancy new high rank. They thought they could just breeze through any low-level dungeon now. Little did they know, he was the one actually doing all the... Rudd told them to chill out because his support magic is basically running 24/7 now. They kicked him to the curb because they were tired of him just mooching off the team. He's already found someone to take your spot. They've signed a deal to raid the next dungeon together. And even though this new guy is a total pro, they straight up told our hero he wasn't good enough to be on a high-level team like theirs. They said useless people get kicked out fast around here, and that's just how it... Red says his magic is a total must-have, and he's going to prove it on their next mission. He's way more than just backup because he's mastered all kinds of spells. Yeah, his friends treated him like garbage, and he knows he shouldn't be there. But that team is the only place he ever felt like he actually fit in. That train was like a literal sun to him, but then the guy just shut him down and said the talk was over. He called the guy super annoying and told his friends to just head to the restaurant since they had a reservation. The man snapped back that he'd handle the team's strategy himself and win. Transed just announced that he officially cancelled the hero's adventurer registration. The kid says he hopes he doesn't regret this, but the guy just laughs and promises him there's no way he will. Red was super annoyed, but he still felt like he owed the guy one. He stepped into the room, and his jaw hit the floor at what he saw. His old crew sold off every single thing he owned, and then this woman walked right up to greet him. She said he was in a huge rush to hit the road, and she's really going to miss him since he's one of the only real-deal adventurers in the whole city. She told him she'd already grabbed all his stuff and left it waiting in the hallway. He just wanted to erase that memory and hoped everyone else would forget it too. So he smacked his own face to finally get it together. The hero just announced that he's officially hitting the road. He was actually tempted to just shut that bracelet off. This is the final magic item he refused to sell, keeping it close at all times because it's what saved Tran and the whole squad. Back when they were still low-level rookies, a gang of bandits jumped them in the middle of the night. He used his magic to sniff out exactly where the enemies were, and the kid saw his chance and made his move the second he was let go. He told them straight up that this time they were actually saying goodbye for real. Pain shot through him as he realized his magic was totally out of whack, a feeling he hadn't dealt with in 5 whole years. His body felt totally weightless, and his head was finally clear. He didn't even notice the massive wave of magic pouring out of him. Honestly, the kid felt like he was on top of the world. Rudd knew his old squad would totally crash without him, but he decided to stop caring since he wasn't their partner anymore. Our hero finally announced it was time to kick off their epic adventure. He looked up and realized the night sky was actually incredible, since he'd spent his whole life stuck inside studying magic. He finally realizes he's totally done with this life. No more locking himself away in some dark, lonely room. He doesn't have to waste his last bit of cash on those pricey. This was exactly what he'd been waiting for. The kid decided he was finally going to live for himself, going wherever he wanted and eating whatever he liked. But before he could start making bank and doing his own thing, he had to get the head. The girl introduced herself with a huge smile and said she was stoked to meet everyone, explaining that she's a support mage joining the Golden Rose squad. While Paf was totally shocked, they rented out. She's a pro at supporting her team, so she can instantly tell how strong someone is in a fight and calls that feeling their aura. She'd never felt a vibe this intense from anyone before. She wondered if she could actually hang with these high-level players. She wasn't sure if she was ready to handle. They looked like basic travelers just a second ago, but now they're giving off major A-rank pro vibes, and she knows something is definitely up. Even with tons of extra magic, there's no way they're reaching circus level, and trying to pull that off for all 4 of them at once is just straight up impossible. Our hero thinks traveling at night with light magic is a total pro move, even though it's going to take him a whole month to reach the Empire. This massive continent is split into 3 main territories where everyone lives either way up in the sky or down in the giant human kingdoms. The only real problem is food, because even if they share everything, it'll only last 3 days. But luckily, the map shows a forest to the southeast where they can hunt for meat or catch some fish. You're still low-key worried about his old squad, even though you should have moved on ages ago. But then out of nowhere, he hears a desperate cry for help. He used the wind to blast forward, but he was sure he'd already missed his chance. The hero spots the bandits raiding the wagons, with every guard already dead, and since they're just killing for cold hard cash, he's about to go absolutely savage on them. He started blasting them with magnets, storm magic, and wind blades, mixing all his spells together into some insane combos. The robbers took one look at him and started booking it in the other direction. This was his first spell ever, but it was actually super strong, and he finally pulled off the attack magic he'd only ever read about in books. He was finally out of danger, and already searching for anyone else who managed to survive. He found a cart full of people and told them they were safe now that he'd already taken out the robbers. But things were starting to go south real fast. A few people are already dead, and this girl is bleeding so bad she's gonna be next if nobody helps her fast. He told her to chill out and promised to help, even though he hadn't used his healing magic in forever. Our guy popped his ability and got his strength back in a total flash. He tapped into his powers to see exactly what was going to happen next. The guy realized her life was a total disaster, and it was even worse because her internal organs were seriously damaged. These weren't new scars, since she'd been suffering for way too long, so they had to clean her up and help her get her strength back. Literally, the only thing he had left to use was that stupid water. You can try to steam and wash everything at once, but these clothes are already totally trashed, so it's going to take a straight-up miracle to save them. This girl looked straight up like a wolf, and she had no clue that her body was healed and everything else was back to normal too. Our hero was totally wiped out since he hadn't used his magic in forever. Rudd was starting to second-guess if he'd actually trained his guys enough for this. She thanked him, but he just shrugged and said he did it for himself too. He spots a weird mark on her chest he's never seen before, and she totally freaks out. Our hero was totally lost, but she apologized and said she was just super scared he was gonna hit her. She begged him not to hurt her, promising she'd do whatever he said and wouldn't even think about running away. To her, a raised hand is a total warning sign that things are about to go down. His magic can patch up any injury, but it won't do a thing for the pain inside your heart. He pulled her into a hug and told her it was all okay, promising he'd never lay a finger on her. He told her she was safe now and that everything was finally gonna be okay. The second he pulled her into a hug, she felt super warm. She finally chilled out and apologized for making things weird. But when he asked what went down, she said she was just as confused because some random group jumped them out of nowhere. When they finally saw them, they realized they'd been played, so they started causing chaos because those robbers were actually chasing their own secret goal. She thanked him one more time and asked for his name, so he finally told her who he was. She finally spoke up and told him her name was Sue. Staying there is way too risky with bandits on the loose, so he uses his magic to fix the carriage and get them moving again. They use earth magic to dig a quick grave because they can't just leave the fallen behind like that. If they don't pull this off, things are about to get way uglier for them. Time was running out fast, so the kid decided to at least build a grave for his brother since it was the only thing he could still do. He tells them they don't have any horses, so he's going to use his wind magic to spin the wheels and get them moving. She looked him right in the eyes and asked if he was really going to stay by her side. She begged him to let her stay right by his side. He was 100% sure that no guy could ever say no to a girl this stunning, especially when she gave him that look. But at the start, they treated him like a total servant and dumped him at the shelter like some abandoned kid. The train hauls him away, and suddenly his memory of the shelter is totally wiped. He has no clue where it was or what he even did there. They wanted to make totally sure he was trapped, leaving him with absolutely zero chance to escape no matter how bad things got. But the pain didn't just vanish, because feelings like that always leave a mark behind. She apologized to him, crying that she was weak, totally helpless, and didn't think she was pretty at all. She straight up admitted that she totally messed up. Sue starts asking where the outfit came from and if it actually looks good on her, and the guy just tells her she looks amazing. He thought she looked seriously beautiful, and if it wasn't for the chains on her wrists, you'd never guess she was just a servant. She was shy but totally unpredictable, and he found that super cute. Turns out, he's actually got a thing for girls with a bit of a wild side. He'd never met. She begged him to join her, but he turned her down flat, saying he loves his freedom way too much. He couldn't handle the pressure of looking after someone else right now, so he just wanted them both to be free. She doesn't belong to anyone anymore and can finally just live a normal life like a regular girl. Sue promised she'd be his, and she made it clear it was totally her own choice. The guy started making excuses and saying he didn't mean it like that, but she just told him she was super happy they met. The hero finally made up with her and asked if she'd look out for him. Since these carts double as tents, they've actually got a solid place to crash for the night. It's a huge relief they found a spot to sleep. The guy offers her a choice between. He suggested they try both ways, But Rudd realized she was only helping because she thought he'd be upset if she didn't. He told her she could tag along, but he wasn't going to let anyone help her out. Her hands were locked together by heavy metal shackles, making it super clear she was just a servant. No outsider can just jump in and cancel this deal. Even if the person who signed it is gone, the contract stays active. Usually, only the fancy nobles have contracts like this. If anyone, our MC finally decided he was going to live life exactly how he wanted. That dark magic spell was doing everything it could to wipe him out. This contract is seriously overpowered and looks like a whole squad signed it, meaning no regular mage stands a chance at breaking it except for him. This guy was a wizard for a top-tier team who handled everything from disarming traps to breaking curses, always finding new paths for his friends because he was a total pro. She was totally blown away because she'd been told those things would never come off. Red told her to relax since she was going to help him and needed her hands free, and the girl realized he didn't just break her chains, but he actually healed all her injuries and sickness too. They told her there was no cure. It was basically a curse, and even the priests had totally given up hope. They just took off and left her all alone in the village. Our hero reached out and gave her a super gentle head pat. She's gushing about how he gave her new clothes and saved her from bandits, calling him her total hero. But he just plays it cool, saying he's just a magician, even though she begged him to be her real partner and stay by her side forever. To seal the contract, they have to chain her up, swap blood, and mix their magic so she'll obey him forever. But even though the boy knows the ritual, he refuses to force her. This beast man has a super unique culture where a forehead kiss is just a sign of friendship, and the hero says he's way more into that vibe. He asked if she liked it, and she told him it was seriously amazing. Sue straight up asked her why she needed such a massive raise. The guy tells her she's got a pretty wild way of thinking, so she asks if she can try it out right now, and he's totally down for it. He figured she was just acting shy, even though kissing is a totally normal thing in their culture. But she didn't kiss his forehead, telling him straight up that this was her answer. She asks him to look after her, but even after reading a ton of books, this guy is still totally clueless. Every country has its own weird traditions, and even a simple kiss can mean something totally different depending on where you are. A kiss on the forehead is usually just a super careful way of showing someone. He warned them that the A-rank dungeon is a totally cursed place where a terrifying dragon lives. This guy admits he's totally wasted, and his friends definitely agree, but then one girl's magic goes completely haywire until she confesses she's actually got zero power, leaving everyone shocked that they got this trashed from just a tiny bit of booze. Tran was sure they'd been poisoned, and he swore that as soon as they cleared the dungeon, he was going to tear this restaurant to the ground. He told his friends they couldn't just wait around forever, so it was finally time to dive into the dungeon. His whole crew was totally down with the plan. He figured the new girl was hungover too, but she totally denied it and said they should probably just skip the dungeon today. She warned him to stay out of the dungeon today, but Tran just snapped back, asking how he was even supposed to know that. The guy figured she was just like the girl they kicked out and told her to stop bugging him. But as an assistant, she could actually see their power levels as auras, which Tran thought was super cool. Puff said they're in no shape to fight, and their power has seriously tanked. She says these guys are basically sitting at a B-rank level. The guy laughed off her weird jokes, and she cracked up too, saying their serious faces were hilarious, so they both agreed they couldn't let a dumb hangover make them look this weak. Puff said she totally got it, but she knew this kind of thing almost never happens. Yesterday, their power was way beyond anyone she'd ever seen at the guild, but now they're so weak that heading into the dungeon would be a total death trap. He realized that if even the support expert was worried, he was in way deeper trouble than he thought and wouldn't be able to fight like his usual self. He told them they had to go right now because if they wait, it's all going to be for nothing. The guy insisted it had to be finished today or the kingdom would miss the deadline, and he straight up warned them that this was going to be a brutal job. This was a major test of their skills, so he told his squad to lock in and warned them that Class C can't be failing just because of a hangover, and everyone totally agreed. The girls tried to block his path, but he just pushed past them, thinking she was a total pain and they had zero time to waste talking to her. She said sorry for talking way too much earlier, but he just told her she'd understand everything soon enough. These guys are blasting fireballs and literally turning into undead monsters. He threw a nasty side punch, showing everyone why he's the absolute king of that move. The hero tells her he got kicked out of the guild, but she's totally shocked because she knows he's actually a beast. The kid shot back that his team wasn't just good, they were straight up legendary. The ranks start at a bottom tier E and go all the way up to a legendary SSS. Back then, there was only one SSS rank squad, and they were the total legends who actually took down the Demon Lord. Now, there are 3 of those elite teams, but even at C, hardly anyone actually makes it to the top ranks, since that title is only for the chosen few, and the girl thinks the whole thing is totally rigged. She called him the strongest and kindest guy she knew, but then she claimed he wasn't good enough, even though they were the ones who were totally wrong. This was the first time anyone had ever actually snapped at the hero. It felt super weird, but he was actually into it. He called it a rank, and man, everyone there was way stronger than him. There's a huge chance they're already hanging out in that level C dungeon. Saya tells him that since he's got her now, he doesn't need to care about anyone else, and he just thanks her. The kid admitted he totally went overboard. They finally made it to the exact spot they were looking for, right in the heart of the Roland Empire. The hero says he's ready to be an adventurer again, but he's doing it right here. She asked if he was down for another trip, and even though he really wanted to go, he wasn't sure if he could actually make it happen. Sue was totally sure he'd pull it off and become the greatest traveler ever. She's always had his back, and even without magic, she's his real source of power. Honestly, she might even be better at it than him. But this time, the guy's getting major déjà vu and thinks they're totally lost. But the girl just tells him to chill, even though he's stressing that they have to beat this pitch. She asked for some light, but the girl said doing that would burn through way too much of her magic. She tells the other girl to quit being so slow and help them win. But the girl just says she's out of shape, and even the guy admits he's not feeling his best either. He wasn't sure if he could pull it off, but he decided to give it a shot anyway. The whole squad backed him up and promised to lead the way as fast as they could. Puff was officially joining the squad as their brand new backup wizard. She didn't see any teamwork or a solid plan, and they honestly looked like a bunch of random noobs thrown together at the last second. They're only on the 4th floor out of 13. The deeper they dive, the more insane the magic gets, and the monsters become way more dangerous. The girl just couldn't shake that super nervous. So far, we've mostly seen zombie goblins, and since they're the weakest B-rank monsters out there, a C-rank mage can easily crush them using basic E. The guy told me he didn't need any backup and just wanted me to watch how the fight went down. She figured Tran had this totally under control since he looked so chill fighting 2 zombie goblins at once, but things got chaotic fast, and he only managed to win because the girl backed him up with her. Her magic was pretty solid, but there's no way that was her ultimate move. That fireball was nothing compared to the crazy power she's supposed to have, and it was clear as day. She wondered how they even scored the Circa title, but that didn't matter. If they didn't get out of there right now, they were totally going to lose. They're literally just going to be wiped off the face of the planet. Our hero and the girl are standing right in front of the Roland Adventurers Guild. This place looked way too much like his old city, which was totally creeping him out, right when a worker came over to greet them. She asked how she could help, and the mistake told her she was there to sign up as a brand new adventurer. The girl offered to get him all signed up and introduced herself as the guild's secretary. The hero introduces himself, and then Enon asks the girl if she wants to join their squad too. Sue told them straight up that she didn't even need to sign up. The guys at the table totally got the wrong idea. Our hero was actually starting to get pretty stressed about what his future looked like. Inan says they got to get ready for registration, so she tells him to start by filling out all his info on this special form. He had to start by putting in his name and age, and he was totally hyped for it. But then some guy asked the girl if she was lost and told her she definitely didn't belong there. Our hero clears things up by saying he's actually a boy, and the stranger apologizes, saying he's just way too skinny to tell at first glance. The man noticed that the guy is actually super handsome and suggested he find a way better job than just being an adventurer. Red snapped back, telling him to shut his mouth and stay out of his business. This guy just straight up called him a total idiot. He claimed adventures were only for real men, and that skinny weaklings didn't belong. So seeing someone he thought was a total loser really ticked him off. The hero told the girl everything was totally fine, then turned to the guy and asked for his stuff back because he wasn't done writing in it yet. The stranger dared him to try and take it, saying travelers have to be tough, but the boy just sighed because adventurers are the same everywhere. No matter where he went, it was always the same. The guy was just straight up fuming at him. He goes on the attack, showing off B-rank strength and magic, while telling the guy he seriously needs to pick his battles more carefully. Even though he got kicked out, he's still got that Class C power in his veins. Thanks to his physical buffs, his punches hit like a literal truck. He doesn't, Red says, he's just a mage and doesn't control every curse, but he can still pull off a few of them. The guy felt like he was being clowned on, and seeing how fast the hero got back up, he realized this dude had to be one of the strongest fighters in all of Category B. The hero told him that with such a low level, he could swing his fists all day and still never get out, but he wasn't going to turn him down. The guy starts losing it and screaming to be let go, but he just tells him to shut up and promises he'll be free once the job is done. He says sorry to the girl and asks if she's freaked out, but she's totally chill, and even though things are loud now, at least nobody's going to mess with him anymore. The guy starts screaming and begging to be let go, but it's way too loud for our hero, so he shuts him up to finally enjoy the silence. Everyone said his speed was absolutely insane to watch, and he was basically a total beast. The heroes started talking about what was going on, and the guy realized this was one seriously weird group of people. The hero lands 3 massive hits using his physical buffs, and the girl warns the group they better keep a close eye on him. Just a few hours ago, we were deep on the 5th floor of a terrifying dragon's cursed lair. The girl asked for a break, and the guy was totally fine with it since he needed to check the map, but she was seriously exhausted and needed time to get her magic back. Puff was sure everyone finally got how bad things were, so she told them it was time to bail. The guy says, no way, but his friends tell him they aren't even halfway there, and the real challenge is just starting, leaving the girl wondering where they get all that confidence from. Trans declared that he's finally lifting the ban on support magic and is going to rely on it for everything now. They told her to keep a close watch on them. They were dying to see if she was actually useful. And then they straight up asked her to join the team. She had no clue just how much these guys were counting on her support magic. To her, the standard for being good was sky high, like way up in the clouds. She told Paf was totally lost on what auxiliary magic even was, and she couldn't get why she had to lug around bags and play guide when she was already struggling. This stuff is actually super complex, so she was shocked that almost no other wizards even tried to use it. They told her to kick it into high gear with more buffs and far sight magic, and since she'd been holding back, she's got plenty of mana left for lights. And they started talking about their old friend and pressured the girl to follow his lead. But she told them straight up that there was no way she could handle all those tasks. Paf had no clue who they were talking about, but the guy told them they had to keep moving because there was zero time to rest. They gave her the same map the boy used, handed back all her gear so she could see clearly, and even hooked her up with a flashlight. She might think she's just a beginner, but those words almost made her burst into tears because everyone was asking way too much of her, even though she'd already told them she had reached her limit. She found out our guy pulled all this off and didn't even whine once. She had no clue who they were talking about, but this guy was using a ton of different magic types and stacking them all at once. She was totally lost and just couldn't wrap her head around it. We're already on level 6, and you can totally feel the magic getting way stronger than before. They were officially in the Cursed Den, a super creepy place where rank A dungeons get actually dangerous, and she still gets those pre-fight jitters every single time she walks in. They saw a street right in front of them and decided to ditch the map, keeping their spirits high as they locked in for the fight. Le Mans says they aren't playing games, and they're gonna make this whole thing as simple as 2 + 2. A massive zombie goblin was standing right there, and since it was clearly the level boss, they knew they finally had a real shot at winning, making the guy feel like luck was totally on their side today. She says he's a total genius, but definitely not the main villain. And since this is a cursed dragon lair, that dragon is 100% the final boss. King is the absolute deadliest A-rank boss in the mid-game. And even if you're an A-rank yourself, he'll completely wreck you if things go south. Nobody even remembered the name of this subway, but they all knew exactly who was running the show. The guy said it was time to clear the dungeon, and he was already all set to blow the whole place apart. The girl was totally shocked that they weren't even a little bit scared of the king. She figured this was all just a big test, and everyone was totally faking it. They totally threw the fight against that B-ranker just to see how she'd handle the pressure, because even after joining a C-rank squad, the test isn't over yet. Basically, fear just leads to losing, so she promised to work her hardest and become the best mage's assistant ever. She suddenly remembered what a pro-adventurer told her. Fighting isn't everything, because you need a heart that never quits and the guts to stare down the scariest monsters without flinching. She's a legit adventurer who loves diving into the unknown and never quits, even when she's facing someone way more powerful than her. I mean, she's finally got S-rank teammates backing her up now. She summons a massive wall of light that's going to be super hard to break, buying them some much-needed time. And since that zombie freak definitely hates the glow, everyone was in bad shape, and the guy said he got totally blindsided. He told them they've got the rank for this, and they're gonna handle business because it's their duty. They were totally shocked the monster survived their best moves, and the girl cried out that she'd never been hurt this bad in her entire life. They begged Paf for backup, and she promised she was giving it her all. So once the fight started, she buffed their strength, but she couldn't keep it up forever. This girl just let loose a bullet of straight-up hellfire. The healer realized she had to use her secret weapon and pulled out a bottle of holy water. She unleashed a blast of holy light to wipe away all the evil. That was the loudest scream she'd ever heard in her life. Their plan actually worked, but they still couldn't take him down. They were supposed to hit him again, but seeing him slow down, she realized the holy water was actually working and shouted for everyone to run while they had the chance, especially since they were all way too injured to keep fighting. She finally realized the truth. The guy claimed the last mage was kicked out for being slow, but he actually quit because the squad was totally useless and relied on him for everything. They had a whole plan to beat the hardest dungeons and that dragon's cursed lair, but they got absolutely crushed. The girl said sorry for making him wait. He told her he'd just finished filling out all the paperwork. She checked it over and said everything looked good to go. But the hero asked. She found out he used to be an adventurer, but for some reason, he totally lost his license. She wasn't even surprised, because she knew he was just way too powerful. She told him she was keeping an eye on him, and even when she got caught off guard, she never let that smile slip, making him think she was a total pro at playing it cool. She didn't care about his old guild because the Empire is always looking for more adventurers, and anyone with real skills is totally welcome. Even the GILS don't just let anyone in, because you still have to pass a brutal selection process to make the cut. She laughed it off as a total joke and told them to chill because they'd already signed it up. Our hero realized she was actually way funnier than he ever expected. She told him to kick off the 2 tests for his powers and skills, and he said he'd give it his best shot. Inan said they could pull it off without this, but rules are rules. She asked if he could do any tricks, and he told her he's a magician who's also got some crazy skills with the ball. To kick things off, they ran some tests where every mage had to use a crystal to see if they actually had what it takes. This magic relic lights up the second a mage touches it, and the color and brightness show exactly how much insane power they're packing. Rad said he'd only ever read about this in books and had never actually seen it in real life. She broke down the rules and he finally got it. If that crystal shows he's got enough magic, he passes the test. Up until now, he never even had to worry about how those elemental powers work. He sucked at some types of magic, so instead of failing tests, he looked for other ways to make them work. He stayed buried in books for ages until he mastered every single spell out. The girl told them to just let the magic do its thing, swearing the crystal wouldn't break, so they had absolutely nothing to worry about. Aineen says only a legendary sage, basically the strongest wizard alive, has enough raw magic to shatter this crystal. He really hoped he could pull this off, using that hype to stop holding back and finally go all out. All right, it's go time. The testing is finally kicking off. The strongest wizard to ever live is the legendary Mondor, a hero famously known as the Holy Sword of Cornelon. These two are legendary heroes from the supercontinent era and members of the only SSS rank team in history. But he thinks it's a total lie, that only the great sage is strong enough. He's so insanely tough that he thinks absolutely nothing can touch him. He was curious to see how the bullet would react, so he hit it with some magic. But the result was totally not what he expected. Our hero was convinced his magic was way too weak to ever make it as a real adventurer. He was just as shocked as the girl was. He remembered her saying there was no way he'd ever break this crystal. She was making weird noises and sweating like crazy, but she never stopped smiling, and right then he knew she was a total pro. He apologized for busting the ball, but she told him it was no big deal since it was super old and had been used for way too long anyway. She was totally shocked because she'd never seen anything like that, and she straight up asked if he had some kind of secret magic power. When the sage finally finished him off, he exploded in a flash so bright it looked like the sun. People say the guy writing it all down actually went blind from the glare. That's why, today, next, the color of the light shows if you're a match, but the ball didn't even glow. Our hero felt like he was totally the wrong guy for this job. Maybe his magic is just built that way, and it's nothing special, but the girl was still complaining that it's totally unfair. She says he knows all kinds of magic, so it's literally impossible for him to be bad at every single one. He knows for sure he's the one who shattered that crystal, proving his magic is way more powerful than even the great ones. He's totally flexing because he knows he's got a ton of tricks and way more magic to show off. He mastered magic from all over the world, but he still thinks it's a total stretch to say he's actually stronger than the great sage. At least she knows he can use magic now, and honestly, the stuff he's pulling off is actually super high level. Maybe that crack totally busted the crystal, because it's supposed to react to even the tiniest bit of magic, so there's no way it shouldn't be glowing right now. He knows the real truth is way different, but he doesn't even bother explaining it, because nothing is worse than lying to yourself about what you can actually do. She knows his magic is totally unique and powerful, and there's zero doubt that his strength is completely off the charts. You've got to show off that power somehow, and honestly, the magic in this world is totally off the charts. The girl was totally shocked and said her power is off the charts because there's literally no limit to her magic. She said it all happened because she saw right through him and is just a total pro at reading people. He straight up told her he's got zero doubts about what she can do. She promised to try again if they find more magic measuring gear, so his actual power level is still a total mystery. Next up is the ability test, and this is where they finally show off what their magic can really do. Normally, they'd do this in a special room, but his magic is so insane, they're heading outside just to stay safe. He figured she didn't trust him one bit, probably still mad that he smashed those 2 crystals. She set up some crazy challenges just to see if he could actually handle them. The whole point of this test is to blast them with magic, using any basic element he wants to totally wipe them out. This guy was totally caught off guard by her reaction. It seemed like he'd dealt with this kind of drama before. He looked super confident, like he had everything under control. She was just, these things will be too tough to break, since they were made of legit golden slime. This tiny golden slime is a super rare rank A monster that can tank almost any physical hit, even though it's not completely invincible. Magic barely even scratches this thing, but it can still blast you with insane spells, and since it's so rare, everyone's obsessed with it. These golden targets are actually made of golden slimes. Even the C-rank ones are a total nightmare to beat without some crazy special skills. Your basic magic won't even leave a scratch on them. This guy is literally impossible to hurt. She's 100% sure these enemies are coming back for revenge over that magic crystal. He could tell she was still totally crushed that he smashed those. She tells him it was just a test to see if he could actually control his powers. It's totally normal that he didn't break the target, because literally no one has ever. This test was all about aim, not raw power, and passing was a total piece of cake if you just used a tiny bit of magic. He could have easily flexed and gotten a high. She promised that nothing would break this time, but he could tell she was super nervous, and you could totally feel the awkward tension from their last big fight. This is the perfect chance to see what he's really made of, so don't you dare go easy on him. She turned to him and asked what the deal was with that star. The hero admits he's not used to using it yet, and while he thinks he absolutely needs it, the girl tells him it's actually totally optional. Rudd just told them that, same as always, they're going to use their bare hands. Anan was totally shocked that he just kept doing it like that. Our guy thought about which spell to use and decided it was time to bring the heat. His old friend spent all his time training with fireballs, but honestly, they were more like fire arrows. He let a spell fly. He had to steer the energy, turn it into fire, and change its shape all at once. He messed with his technique to boost the power, even if the flaming arrows slammed right into the target. The girl asked him what kind of magic that even was. The hero just shrugged and told them it was nothing but a basic fire arrow. She says, "What's up?" and the guy immediately starts apologizing. He totally underestimated it, because that hit was way more powerful than he ever saw coming. Sue was honestly so hyped for him. They bring the hero out and say the final results are coming soon, which is super weird since she usually just tells you right on the spot. She got some special orders this time, so she knocked on the door and told them she'd brought the new recruit they were looking for. The girl thanked him for taking the registration test and then told him her name. Savinia teased that the hero has a super weird partner, but before getting into that, she had to hype up his crazy achievements first. She'd never seen results like this in her life, and even the hero was totally clueless. He was super nervous, wondering if she'd even get what he meant. She told him he crushed the exam, said congrats, and officially welcomed him into the guild. Sue was honestly so hyped for him, and the kid made sure to thank them both. He felt super awkward, like he totally didn't fit in. She told him he's starting at E rank, and even though she knows we're total pros, that's the absolute limit of her power. The hero was totally down since he'd just arrived, and the girl was super relieved he actually got it, while the secretary mentioned his skills were already top tier for this rank. But she told him she's not going to dig into his past, but she expects big things and is hyped to finally team up. With the mess finally cleared up, he headed over to the quest board by the guild entrance to pick his next job. She told him she wanted to check everything herself, so he asked if this was just another part of her trial. She tells him he's already passed the secret test, but since every game needs a prize, she's going to give him a special reward if he wins. She tells him about this awesome squad looking for an A-rank partner and says she can totally hook him up with a recommendation. The hero thought the plan was solid, and since he didn't know a single soul in Roland anyway, he was totally down to take on the trial. They finally sat down to figure out the rules of the deal. The girl says it's all coming down to one final strike. If he blocks her sword, he wins, but if she lands even one hit, she takes the victory. She claims she's totally got the upper hand right now. She promised him right then and there that things were never going to be boring. The girl points her sword straight at him, deciding to start the fight right in that room, and tells them to get the kid out of there. But Sue yells that she's not leaving her mistress and wants to see how this all goes down. Savinia drops into a fighting stance and asks if they're 100% sure the girl will be okay, because nobody wants to see her get hurt. Rudd steps up and unleashes his barrier magic with total confidence. The guild leader admits the kid's magic is totally insane, but warns him that power alone won't keep him alive, and our hero has absolutely no idea what he's talking about. She says he just stared at it with a totally insane grin on his face. Out of nowhere, she lunges straight for the boy. He snaps into action and reaches out to cast a spell, but absolutely nothing happens. Rudd's jaw drops when he sees the girl pull out a magic shield. This crazy barrier that blocks magic and shuts down spells is also called. Savinia just gave a smug grin at the mage killer, realizing she'd finally managed to throw him off his game. She's totally confused about how this guy is even fighting without any magic. He's totally stunned and calls her out, reminding her she promised to only use a sword. Turns out she was actually only using a sword at first. She flings the kid into the air and dares him to show her his real power. She says, "You never know what's coming next in a real adventure." And while she's gripping those knives, she suddenly just chucks them straight at him. He's totally shocked by this meeting and just freezes up right next to the swords sticking out of the dirt. He checks out her moves and realizes she used a DIY trap called Colored Threads that's designed to totally lock him in place. Red knows she wants him to just keep moving, but he tells her straight up that this whole mess is way too much to handle. She swings her sword and screams at the hero that he better not dare die. Winnie blasts him with fire and wind at the same time, making him think she's actually trying to kill him. But this actually helps our hero since his hands are finally free and he can copy her moves to fight back. The second he gets jumped, Rudd instantly snaps a shield into place. She's totally blown away by how fast he's countering her, and now she's super hyped to see what else he's got up his sleeve. She's going in for another swing. Rudd isn't backing down yet and tells her she's way too prepared right before he brings up that bandit. She was gasping for air from the pressure, but she wasn't about to quit because she just had to see more of the action. The next hit landed before he could even blink. Rudd was already huffing and puffing, wondering why she was giving him that crazy look. So he decided to give her what she wanted and jumped right back into the fight. He reaches out and feels the insane power of the wind and the earth surging through his blade. Savinia is having a blast and notices the kid's magic is actually evolving to counter her every move. Red has no clue what's going on with all this weirdness, but he's already calling who's gonna win. His rival is gasping for air and demands he show her how he adapts to her style, which definitely has him feeling the pressure. Savinia is a total battle junkie who lives for the thrill of the fight. He locks eyes with her, staring her dead in the face. She starts heading right for him, her eyes totally locked on. In this world, magic and swords are the only things you absolutely need to survive. Suddenly the sword snaps, and a sharp piece flies right at the girl. She covers her face and shakes in fear, but the shard slams into a protective shield instead of hitting her. Savinia spins around with no clue what's going on, while Sue just watches her from behind the barrier dome. She asks when he pulled that off, and he tells her he set up the protection from the very start. He tells them straight up that he just couldn't risk letting them get hurt. Savinia just grins and says that after using all that crazy magic, she's actually struggling to catch her breath. Rude just smirks and says he uses magic all the time, and after blocking the hit, he asks if he won. The girl stays chill and admits she lost, totally shocked that he actually broke her mithril gear, but he just waves his hand and says it was a total accident. She cracks up, telling Ruda he's a hilarious guy and that she actually really likes him. He notices her hype is totally gone, and even though he wants things to stay the same, he's completely clueless about what went wrong. This kid has absolutely no clue what it means to be obsessed with adapting. Anne points out they're all just as hooked on change as the guildmaster, while Rudd jokes that their guild is basically just a bunch of weirdos. Savinia walks back over and reaches out her hand, telling him she hasn't seen a show that good in forever, and while it was a total blast, he better actually try next time. But the kid isn't having any of it. He's totally done with this creepy demon sword and straight up says no. The guild leader admits to the boy that she thought she was a pro with a sword, but now she realizes she's actually a total beginner. Rudja just shrugs, because he's heard this a million times. Everyone knows a demon sword will take over your mind if you're weak, but the way she's using it proves she's the one calling all the shots. She says the test is finally over and tells Yenok to hand over that guild medal. She hands Ruddy a box, and inside is his official adventurer certificate straight from Roland. He finally hit E-rank status as an adventurer, and he's totally hyped about it. He knows he made the right call, and now he's finally back to being an adventurer. But this time, he actually earned it on his own. For the first time ever, Red actually feels like a real human. Everyone's cheering for the hero's big win, and Sue is so hyped, she's jumping around, yelling that she'll follow him anywhere. Suddenly, this super pretty girl shows up out of nowhere. Savinian tells the kid the squad commander is pulling up any second, and she even promises to hook him up with a recommendation so he can meet the guy face to face. While the crowds below were just minding their own business, Rudd sat down with Sue to see if he could snag some E-rank work. She hands him the papers and offers to take care of all the work for him. They both scanned the papers, zeroing in on the mission to go collect some herbs. Inan tells him that joining the elite A-class squad is the only way to get more missions, So even though things are way too easy right now, he's just got to deal with it for a bit. Still, Rudd's just glad they're giving him any work at all. A girl in armor walks into the room, looking totally cool as she leans on her sword. She checks him out with a curious look, and suddenly, they lock eyes. Red looks away and says he thought they locked eyes, while Inan whips back around, totally buzzing with hype. Out of nowhere, that same girl rushes up and asks him with a ton of energy if his name is Rudd. He says yes, but he's getting super nervous because they're standing way too close. She grabs his hand with a huge smile, showing she totally gets what's going on. She fidgets with her fingers and admits she can feel a totally unique vibe coming off him. Rudd's still feeling super ashamed as he grips the freezing cold metal of his armor. Suddenly, Sue jumps right between them, waving her arms like crazy and demanding to know who this girl is. Savinia pops up from behind and reveals that this girl's name is actually Lily Ruru. She walks right up to her and introduces herself as the leader of their elite squad, Brave Fang. Rudd is totally shocked and asks them to repeat that. So the girl explains this is the exact squad she recommended him for. Lily Ruku grabs her heart and starts tweeting like crazy, saying she's so hyped to meet up early since she thought it was tomorrow, and she admits that Ionan is the one who taught her everything. Rad glared at Inan in total frustration while she just stood there looking completely lost. But then Savini revealed that the info actually came from someone else entirely. Lily Ryuba sprints over all excited and starts firing off questions about how he beat Savinia's insane adaptation and dodged the mage killer to get here so fast, while Rudd just stands there totally confused and silent. She keeps spamming him with questions while Inan tries to wave her off. But Sue finally steps in to say Rudd is totally wiped out, making Lilu Ryu apologize and admit she's just super hyped. She reaches out her hand and tells him the choice is final, officially welcoming him to the legendary Boar Tusk squad. Rudd's totally shocked she traveled all this way just to recruit him, but now he's finally getting a fresh start with a brand new squad in a new place. He thinks back to his old crew and all the time they spent together, figuring they've probably just moved on with their lives by now. He keeps telling himself he doesn't belong here, but then he suddenly slams his hand over his mouth. The stress gets to him, and he suddenly pukes all over the girl, making her look totally grossed out. She let out a massive, terrified scream that was so loud it echoed all the way outside. Later on, the guy wakes up and touches his forehead, realizing he feels totally sick. He hops off the sofa and realizes he's standing right in the middle of the guild's common room. Sue rushes over to him with a huge smile, and Savinia sees that the boy is finally wide awake. The guy instantly drops to his knees and starts begging her to forgive him. She steps right up to him with total confidence and tells him to quit saying sorry. Rudd stands up in total shock because he was sure Lily Ruru would be super mad, and now he's just completely confused by what's going on. He notices she looks straight up like royalty in that dress. Red sat down across from the group, and the girl noticed he looked totally stung the second she said the word team. Now, she's just trying to figure out why they're acting like that. Rudd makes it totally clear that Lily Ruru is the true leader of Team A, both to her squad and everyone else. He knows he can't just stay quiet, so he speaks up and says they probably already know what's going on. Rad was an adventurer who spent his days exploring way up in the highest mountains. Lily Ryuba totally flips out because she refuses to believe he actually got kicked out. She leaned hard on the table, totally overwhelmed by her feelings, while Anan reached out to try and calm her down. She'd never seen a wizard as cracked as Mr. Rudd, and even though Haya used a super weird ranking system, Lily just kept muttering that replacing him would be totally impossible. Savinia straight up admitted she was lost, wondering if the group was too pro to need Ruda's help or if they were just totally clueless. Sue was basically doing victory laps around Lily Ruru while holding her hands, bragging that she was right about Rudd being the best magician ever, while Rudd just stood there looking completely clueless. He's totally shocked that no one is blaming him, because everyone is actually furious at Chan and the others for sending him. Inan confessed that his closest friends totally ditched him, and that betrayal is what really stings. Lily Rue asked if that's why he gets so stressed out whenever the team is mentioned, while everyone else stepped up to comfort Rude and show him some love. The kid had no clue this was even a thing, and he never would have guessed that some people are actually terrified of being on a team. He really wanted to help Sue with her drama, but he didn't even realize his own past had left him way too broken to do it. She walks up and gives him a sweet head pat to let him know he's got this. Rudd looks at Sue's big smile and starts to wonder who's actually the boss, because he still has no idea. Lila Ruru slowly stood up, gave a nod, and told them she'd catch up with them in a bit. She suggested they talk about Rudd joining the squad next time, and he just stared at her in total shock, clearly wanting to say something. He looked down, feeling totally crushed, because an A-rank squad only wants the best of the best, and he knew he was just a broken mess. Out of nowhere, Lily Rue points her finger right at him. He looked into her eyes and saw his own face staring right back at him. She jumps right in to hype him up, telling him to stop making things hard for himself because he's worth way more than an A, and he's the only one she truly needs. She awkwardly admits that on top of everything else, he was the first person to ever splash her with that nasty gunk. Rudd stepped up to take charge, but he was still totally clueless about why her face was turning bright red. She grabbed his hand with a huge grin and told him he was joining the squad no matter what. He was totally shocked that even after getting kicked out, he was actually getting a chance to start over from zero. From that point on, our hero decided he was finally going to live life by his own rules. Suddenly, the kid got so freaked out that he started feeling sick all over again. It's happening all over again. That jerk just puked all over the girl exactly like he did last time. We're heading straight to the Kingdom of High Air and its massive capital city, Tiru. High up in the mountains is the richest city around, and it's home to the main headquarters for the Adventurers Guild. Deep inside a massive pit, a serious-looking guy sits on a throne and stares down at a boy standing off to the side. He drops the news that the Golden Rose got demoted to rank B, and the guy is totally losing his mind. He starts yelling at the guy, asking why he'd make a call like that when they're literal S ranks, not just some A-rank nobodies. Trana suddenly slams the guard to the floor and pins him down, telling him he'd better show some respect since he's standing right in front of the king. He's absolutely losing it because an S-class like him got wrecked so fast. But he finally gets that these guys are the real deal. Back at the house, Lilaruru and Sue finally show up and apologized for causing everyone so much trouble. Rudd tells them to scrub their hands, and as the girl rushes off to do it, she thinks he's giving off major dad vibes. She's totally blown away that this house even has water, making it feel just like a magical moving castle. The kid gets super embarrassed by the comparison and pulls a totally awkward face. As they soared through the sky, magic kept morphing the carriage until it turned into the ultimate cozy spot to kick back and relax. He stashed it outside the city, but the thing was so massive that everyone could still see it. He found out people were spreading rumors about him, and he knew all that extra attention was going to be a massive problem. Sam Rudd isn't totally sure, but he might have beefed up the walls way too much against monsters and bandits, so he's going to try using masking magic later. But then he actually started meeting new people. He used to be a total loner who only cared about magic, so making a friend felt like a massive deal. He finally took a seat at the... Rudd turned to Sue and pulled today's catch right out of his bag to get it ready for her. She beamed at her food, told him to dig in, and started eating, which totally caught Lil Ruru off guard. She was totally shocked by what Sue was eating and immediately started grilling Rudd about what he was giving her. He tells her the dish is a wild mix of boar meat, swordfish, and forest worm juice, which definitely gives her something to think about. She enjoyed every single bite and told him the food tasted absolutely amazing. Lily Ruru turned bright red and asked if that stuff was actually medicine. Red asks if they have anything like this back in Roland, and she tells him they call them supplements, but it's actually just real food. He thinks these are just for packing on muscle fast, which makes total sense in a world where being tall and having a massive, powerful body is the only thing anyone cares about. He says his old partners were totally pissed too and told him to keep that thing far away from them. She twirled the oval piece between her fingers, completely blown away that this weird thing was actually real meat. Red grabs a piece and explains he used magic to pull the energy right out of a python's body to make this. Lila Ruru winced, still totally shocked that something this crazy could actually be real. He says it's a total breeze if you mix bioenergy with magic to squeeze out all that power. And since the meat stays fresh forever, it's the ultimate hack for surviving dungeons. She asks if magic can even do that, but Red says he taught himself, even though he honestly has no clue how he's pulling it off. He tells her she might as well try some since she's already there, and she starts considering it while watching Sue munch away like it's the best meal ever. I decided to just go for it. Popped a piece in my mouth and realized they weren't even scary as I finished it off. I was totally shocked because it actually tasted amazing. Rudd grinned at his masterpiece while Lily Ruru kept eating, slowly realizing the food actually had some serious flavor. He even gobbled down a few pieces himself to get his magic back to full strength. She kept hyping up every single dish and admitted she literally couldn't stop stuffing her face. But he tells them straight up that this just isn't enough. She says it tastes amazing and is totally sure it'll fill you right up. He smacks the kid and tells him that chewing is a huge part of the meal, which totally blows the boy's mind. She takes a look at Sue and realizes she's a beast person, so she tells them they should just give her some meat. This isn't just about the taste or health, it's actually for building up crazy jaw strength, just like a little Ruru. Then, in a split second, he tosses another bite into his mouth. Ruda thought about it for a second and realized she might actually be right about the whole chewing thing. Watching her scarf down that food made me seriously doubt if she was telling the truth. By now, the sun is totally gone, and it's pitch black outside. The fire was popping and cozy, and after a massive stretch, Sue could feel herself totally starting to drift off. Ruth pulled her into a hug and said they were heading to bed early, but Lily just had to ask one more time if that guy was seriously not her dad. After dinner, the tough Batetsu teaches her about magic and tucks her into bed, just like they've done every single night since they met. He looks over and realizes she's totally drained from their big day out, especially since she's still super shy about everyone staring at her. The girl wakes up, lets out a huge yawn, and then asks the hero if he wants to go to the bathroom with her. He just nods, throws Sue over his shoulder, and heads to the bathroom, telling Lilara to hang tight while he gets her cleaned up. He tells her to make herself at home, so she just chills on the couch and keeps on eating. Suddenly, her food drops as she asks if they're actually going there together, and he just freezes up, looking at her in total shock. He tells her straight up that they're going there together. Lily was totally blushing and lost for words, but then she blurted out that it was a bad idea since they're the same age. Red thought about what she said, but she still didn't get what the big deal was. Lilaroo turned bright red and shouted that they'd both be totally embarrassed to be caught without any clothes on. The kid was totally clueless about the big deal, so he just patted Sue's head and casually said they always take baths together anyway. She totally agrees with him and says she loves those head pats because they make her feel so happy. But she's still totally losing it, screaming that they have to wash up separately while she shoves them apart. Sue asks the girl why they can't just wash up together. She lays out all the reasons why this is happening and tells them it's just straight up wrong. The girl in the middle waves her hands and shouts that they should all just go for a swim. They both ask again in total shock, literally unable to believe what they just heard. She's all smiles, saying they won't be lonely anymore, but Rudd gives her a super awkward hug and tells her this is a huge mistake. He thinks Sue is still just a kid, but Lulu has already grown into a total beauty, and that's making things super dangerous. He heads back to the girl and finally explains what he actually meant. But then he spots her just standing there, her face turning bright red like a total tomato. She starts waving her hands around, all nervous, telling him it's totally fine since she was literally just about to hop in the bath anyway. Ryder's totally shocked and points out her face is bright red, telling her she doesn't have to force it if she's not feeling it. Lily tells him she isn't being rough for no reason. She's just trying to keep him under control. He sees her reaction and flashes a huge grin. He's still clueless about why Lilura showed up at his place, but it's actually super simple. She wants him to join her team. She tells him they need to get closer if they're gonna be friends, but she's still totally helping him join her squad. He sees she even packed her overnight gear and is totally staying the night. She gives him a totally awkward look. Whoa, things just took a totally wild turn. Sue suggests that the whole squad should just go hit the baths together. Both of them stared at the girl, totally caught off guard. Rudd awkwardly says no because he thinks it's a bad move, while Lily just stands there completely frozen in shock. He looks at the girl and realizes his gut feeling was 100% right. He's totally freaking out because being this close to her is making him feel super tense. Lily Ruru thinks a shared bath is the perfect way to get closer, and she's definitely not missing out on it. Red asks her what she thinks and if she'd be down to share a bath, and she gets a bit shy but tells him she's totally cool with it. She grabs the hero's hand and drags him toward the water, and Red realizes he's totally stuck with no way to say no. The bath was super cramped, only fitting 3 people at a time. He was still freaking out way too much to actually focus. He looked back to see the girls behind him, getting all geared up for the fight. Lily calls him out and tells him to quit staring at them so hard. He looked away, feeling super awkward, and just kept getting dressed. The guy really liked Lil Aro and thought she was just way too cute. A bit later, Rudd poked his head in and asked if it was cool to come inside. The bathroom door swings open and a bunch of new people walk right in. The 3 of them walk inside, and the girl is totally blown away by how massive and fancy their bathtub looks. Sue rubs her sleepy eyes and starts hunting for her towel. She grabs a piece of cloth, thinking it's a towel, and yanks it. But it turns out Lily was actually wrapped inside the whole time. Her towel slips right off, and just like that, she's standing there with absolutely nothing on. The guy looks over at Lily, and their eyes lock. She just stood there, totally frozen, dying of embarrassment and having no clue what to do next. Then her face turned bright red as she stared right at Rudd. Her towel just dropped straight to the floor, leaving her completely exposed. She let out a gasp, turning bright red because she just couldn't hide how awkward she felt. It didn't take long for Sue to crash in her warm bed, snoring quietly as she recharged from that crazy long day. Rudu kept his cool and didn't do anything stupid, just lying down next to the girl while she was fast asleep. Lily Ruru was lying right there next to her, keeping her eyes locked on the boy. Rad said Sue was fast asleep, but she was actually wide awake, staring at the ceiling and totally lost in her own head. Thanks for being so awesome to Sue and actually taking the time to look out for her. He realized she's super careful around everyone, but she's still trying her best to open up and trust them. He straight up admitted that he's actually super worried about her. Rudd thinks back to Sue, really hoping she finds more people she can actually count on as time goes by. Seeing her look so peaceful while she sleeps is all the proof he needs that this can actually happen. Lily admits she didn't do anything crazy, it's just that Sue is a super friendly girl. Rudd is seriously crossing his fingers that it's actually true. He's just staring at Sue while she's fast asleep. Then, he turns over to see Lily Ruru lying right next to him in her pajamas. He remembers exactly what went down in the bathroom and starts feeling totally awkward. She gives him a shy look, and he says he's sorry for all the crazy stuff that happened today. She rolls over and hides her face in total shame because she's covered in puke, and a random dude just saw her naked, so he quickly waves his hands to swear he didn't see a thing to make it less awkward. She lets out a frustrated sigh, but then she tries to hype herself up by saying she's actually super pretty. She's super nervous, fidgeting her legs around under the blanket. She curls into a ball and cries that her first time was stolen, and now she's way too ashamed to even look her friends in the eye. Lily claims Rudd is the first person to ever reject their team, but in his head, Rudd is totally confused because he never actually said no. She tells him he's got to take responsibility now and promises she'll definitely be calling him back. Rudd just stands there totally speechless and confused, but then he finally finds his voice. He really wants her to keep being friends with Sue. She cuts him off, totally shocked, and asks why he's even thinking that. But he just keeps going and reminds her that Sue is super cautious. But honestly, she has a total blast hanging out with Lily. She reaches out from under the blanket and tells him straight up that she didn't come here to be friends with Sue. She reminds them of what she said before. Lily always gets exactly what she wants. She asks if she can hold his hand, and even though she has no clue how his day went, she just wants to try out a little experiment. Ruda was totally stunned because literally no one had ever reached out to help him before. If he rejects her now, it'll totally break her heart. So he slowly reaches out and takes her hand. Everything is dead silent in the middle of the night as their hands finally touch. Lily just giggles at the shocked boy and tells him to chill. She's not asking him to join the team, she's just being nice. They're still holding hands super carefully, like they're afraid to let go. Red doesn't feel any hate, just a cozy warmth as the silent moon glows in the dark sky. They lock eyes and share a quick grin. Sunlight beams right onto their faces as the boy stares at the gorgeous Lily. He's convinced that one day he'll finally deserve a real friend who's actually got his back. They both drift off with huge grins on their faces, still holding hands tight. Ruth's busy checking the news while Seo hangs out with a rabbit that's got a straight-up unicorn horn. Ruth's house is sitting all alone in the middle of a field, and it's dead silent. Ruth and Seo are standing right at the edge of the forest, ready to start their E-rank mission to collect some healing herbs. This is officially his first job as an adventurer in Roland, and he's absolutely hyped to get started. This forest is packed with intense magic, and that's probably why you can find such rare and expensive herbs growing in the fields nearby. The forest is crawling with monsters, so the guild keeps it on lockdown and only lets in adventurers who are rank C or higher. Since they're only rank E, the group heads to the meadows near the forest to start picking those plants. Rudd warns Sue that it's way too dangerous for her to stay, so she needs to head back and wait for him at home. She tells him straight up that she's sticking by his side and wants to help him out as his assistant. He already knew Suda was coming along, so he wasn't surprised one bit. He asked if she'd help him grab some herbs, and she was all in, so they got straight to work. Looking at her, he suddenly remembers that he's actually terrified of being in a crowd. Red knows she's not part of the deal since she and Sue are just friends, not actual teammates. She keeps calling herself an assistant, so he's probably starting to believe it deep down too. Or maybe he just sees her as a friend, but he's honestly so confused that he can't even explain it himself. Oh, and he also mentioned that Lily finally landed a job too. She's got to dive into this crazy dungeon that literally nobody has ever stepped foot in before. Rudd remembers her saying this place was safe, but it's actually a super dangerous dungeon. And she even admitted she'd feel way better if he was there with her. She promised she'd totally win him over by their next trip, leaving the poor guy super confused. She warned Rad to stay sharp and wait for the signal. Lily is grinding away at the team's job, and he's just as locked in on finishing his own mission. He tells Sue they need to pick which herbs to hunt for first, and she's totally locked in on his every word. He shows her exactly what the plant they're hunting for looks like. Now, they're hunting for a 1-year-old plant called Iverson, which sprouts tiny flowers as soon as it gets warm, making its leaves super nutritious. Red shows her a real plant to make everything click, using his sight magic to give her the full picture. Suddenly, all the grass on the ground started glowing, and the boy realized this would make it way easier for Sue to find what she was looking for. He walks over and leans down to grab some grass, finding a willow herb right in his hand, and explains that these little pink buds only start popping up during this time of year. Sue takes a whiff of the bud and instantly recognizes that one-of-a-kind smell. She bounced up with a huge grin, yelled that she'd sniffed them out, and took off sprinting across the grass. He sniffs the plant and starts thinking because everything feels totally off. But then he realizes that if Sue really has those wolf powers, her nose is probably 100 times stronger than any normal human's. She held up the plant with a huge smile and shouted that she found it, leaving the boy totally shocked by her insane speed. Sue rushed over with the grass, and he was just standing there, totally blown away by her insane sense of smell. She laughed and asked the elder if she was doing everything right and if she finally deserved some props. He gave her a quick head pat and told her straight up that she was the absolute best. Sue tracked down those rare herbs one by one, letting nothing but her memory of that specific smell guide her. She's got her own special bag, and it's actually super cool because it uses a space-expanding spell to fit a massive amount of herbs inside. She's dying to get some real experience, so they're spending the whole day focused on exactly that. He breaks down the secrets of gathering for Sue, explaining that tiny buds are actually way better for medicine than big ones, and that thick leaves are the real jackpot. She tells her to only grab the top-tier plants so they don't get overloaded, and the girl locks in, catching every single detail. The guy kept spilling more and more info, and Sue was slowly starting to get used to it. He was actually pretty stoked to see her putting in the work to find some healing herbs and help out. But one day, he totally pushed things way too far. The meeting was finally wrapping up, and Rudd was already set to bounce. Out of nowhere, he sensed a huge wave of danger and started totally freaking out. Out of nowhere, a massive surge of magic blasted out from deep inside the forest. He was totally ready to throw down with some monsters, but to his surprise, there wasn't a single soul in sight. Heavy footsteps and a massive roar echo through the trees, belonging to a beast that's insanely strong and totally deadly. She quickly noticed he was acting super nervous, and she started to panic because she had no idea what was going on. He warns her that they've already finished picking all the herbs for today. He tells her to stick close, and she listens, stepping right behind him. Rudd throws up a magic shield just as this massive monster slams right into him. The kid was totally shocked to see a boar, and this thing was absolutely massive, a straight-up giant. He's totally on edge because he knows there's way more coming. Some creepy demon power totally took over this wild boar, and now it's growling and digging into the dirt like it's ready to charge. That massive amount of cursed energy turned him into a total zombie, and now he's officially a Class A threat. The boar opens its massive, slobbering mouth, and Sue is so freaked out she starts squealing in pure terror. They were safe for a second, but that massive boar just roared even louder and started smashing into the shield. Rudd kept his cool and promised Sue he'd protect her no matter what happened. She grabbed him from behind and screamed that she wasn't scared because her protector was standing right there. Rudd tells her to shut her eyes and wait, because this is all going to be over in a flash. He's ready to throw down with the monster and keep Sue safe. He stares down the monster with pure rage, ready to rip it to shreds for scaring Sue. First, he wanted to shut the guy up, so he used his silence magic to completely mute him. The boar finally went totally quiet, and it couldn't even let out a single roar or squeal anymore. He honestly got off way too easy for scaring Sue like that. He couldn't stand the screaming anymore, so he ended the curse's pain with one quick strike. He figured it all out and knew exactly what his next move had to be. Think about it. Every zombie monster, even a wild boar, must have a real reason for being stuck with this curse. He finally realized it was all in his head, and that's exactly where the vow was locked away. He unleashed a sharp air blade that sliced Bori's head clean off, sending it flying through the air. He used his slow-mo magic to stop the curse from wrecking everything. And just like that, he finally broke the curse. He locks in with a serious face, finishes the cleanup, and starts freezing everything. He finally breaks the curse once and for all. He pulled all that off in just 2 seconds, and he's still got half his time left. He fires up his magnetic magic and starts yanking in everything nearby. Rudd's back at it, using his slow magic and stacking it with some nasty curses. He slapped on a quick seal to keep the magic from falling apart, figuring that would be enough for now. That curse is actually coming from way past the woods, so luckily, the forest is still doing okay. He patted Sue's head and promised her that everything was okay and the worst was finally over. Rudd decided to spill everything to the guild, and the girl thanked him for keeping her safe. Red just stood there with a totally chill smile on his face. He thanked her for helping him grab those healing herbs, and Sue was all smiles as they headed home. But Rudd knew something seriously creepy was going on in those woods. He had no clue what else was hiding in there until the very last second.